My father and my friend, I now present to you the Reverend Jesse Jackson.
Thank you. To my son, whom I'm well pleased, who means so much to our family and this generation, for a moment let us pray. Since our family last met, Ron Brown and Bill Morton and Carol Williams and our friends went down in a tragic accident. Since we last met, the President's mother, Hillary's father, Vincent Foster, members of our family who left on the train early one morning for the mission to guide our nation have made their transition. Let's remember them in our prayers, our utterances, and our commitment to keep the dream alive. Amen. Tonight, as I share with you, I wish that you would hold the applause that operates against my time. Y'all know this is prime time. Tonight I stand before you as statehood senator from Washington, D.C. In our nation's capital, more people live than in 5 states. We pay more taxes than 10 states, and yet we live under congressional occupation. Freedom must ring from our nation's capital. 33 years ago tonight, a young preacher about the same age as my son was putting the final touches on one of the great prophetic messages of our age. August 28, 1963, Dr. King projected a vision of peace and equality that could heal our nation and a troubled world. His vision touched our nation's conscience. The Republicans in San Diego put forward the vision of a big tent. On the cover was General Powell and Jack Kemp. But clearly you cannot judge a book by its cover. For inside the book, it was written by Newt Gingrich and Ralph Reed and Pat Buchanan. All the rights that made General Powell possible are now under assault for the next generation, and all that Kemp believed in until last week is now under assault. What is our challenge tonight? Just look around this place. This publicly financed United Center is a new Chicago mountaintop. To the south, Comiskey Park, another mountaintop. To the west, Cook County Jail, 2 ballparks and a jail. That jail, mostly youthful inmates, 80% drug positive, 90% high school dropouts, 92% functionally illiterate, 75% recidivist rate. They go back sicker and slicker. Between these mountains of the ballparks and the jail was once Campbell Soup and Sears and Zenith and Sunbeam and Stockyards. There were jobs and there was industry. Now there's a canyon of welfare and despair. This canyon exists in virtually every city in America. 1/5 of all American children will go to bed in poverty tonight. Half of all America's African-American children grow up amidst broken sidewalks, broken hearts, broken cities, and broken dreams. The #1 growth industry in urban America, jails. Half of all public housing built the last 10 years, jails. The top wealthiest, 1% wealthiest Americans own as much as the bottom 95%, the greatest inequality since the 1920s. As corporations downsize jobs, outsource contracts, scab on workers' rights, a class crisis emerges as a race problem. But the strawberry pickers in California, the chicken workers in North Carolina deserve a hearing. We must seek a new moral center. My brothers and my sisters, we have been here before. Hear this tonight, we've been here before. The last time we gathered in Chicago, high winds ripped apart our big tent. We could not bridge that gap between strongly held opinions. We lost to Nixon by the margin of our despair. In 1968, the tension within our party was over warfare. In 1996, it's welfare. Last week, over the objections of many Democratic Party leaders and the opposition of millions of Americans, Franklin Roosevelt's 6-decade guarantee of support for women and children was abandoned. On this issue, many of us differed with the president. Patricia Ireland and I even picketed the White House. We're all for welfare reform, but we want jobs and daycare and health care as the alternatives. Good news is this: when Pataki and Wilson disagreed in San Diego, they were sent to Siberia, and Gingrich had to do a volleyball match, and Trent Lott had to sing a song. We have the right to express ourselves, and that's diversity, and that's the Democratic Party. My brothers and my sisters, diversity is the measure of the party's strength. How we handle adversity is the measure of our character. We must find the bridge to keep our tent intact. We must make the commitment to right the wrongs in the bill. We need a Democratic Congress. Now that we've ended welfare as we know it, let's fight for jobs and daycare and health education as we also know it. Hear this, if you will. The fight was never about welfare. It was always about jobs and opportunity. Welfare. Welfare is the exhaust pipe of a failed economic engine. We want to be a part of the engine of growth. The passage of the welfare bill creates a moral imperative to provide a job with a living wage for every man and woman in America. That was Roosevelt and Dr. King's dream. Hear this: most poor people are not on welfare. They work every day. Most of them are women, and 2/3 are children. What must we do? Mayors, when you go back to your cities next week, if you'll just get 20,000 parents in 50 cities who will do 5 things: take your child to school, meet your child's teachers, exchange home numbers, turn off the TV 3 hours a night, and pick up a report card every 9 weeks. If we do that, we're talking about 1 million parents engaging with their teachers to modify their behavior. We could get from those same 50 cities, Brother Archer, 100 ministers to meet with juvenile court judges, and 100 churches reclaim 20 youth each as alternatives to unnecessary jails. That's 100,000 youth. We could turn jails into museums and build schools again. We can change the course. For us, Democrats, when we change the course, the real issue is not 3 strikes and you're out. If the crime is vicious enough, maybe 1 strike is enough. But what about the vision of 4 balls in your own? Prenatal care and Head Start, ball 1. An adequately funded public education, ball 2. A marketable skill, ball 3. And a job, ball 4. Put America on. Lift our youth up, not lock them up.
What shall we do between these two ballparks and this jail? What shall we do in this canyon between the ballparks and the jail? And we shall reclaim our children. Secondly, these stakes are very high in 1996. We have the burden and the obligation to win for yet unborn generations. What shall we do economically? We have $6 trillion in private and public pension funds. Why can't we take 5% of that money, $300 billion, government secured, use that money to reinvest in our infrastructure and put America back to work? We did it for Poland. We made for Poland 40-year loans at 3/4%, first payment due in 10 years. If we can rebuild Poland and Europe and Japan, we can build Chicago and Atlanta and Memphis and Nashville. We can rebuild America. Don't stop there. My friends, as I rise to support our president, let me make this case. Our presidents must make strong positions on defense and offense. President Clinton has been our first line of defense against the Newt Gingrich contract, America's right-wing assault on elderly, our students, and our civil rights. We must maintain with integrity the first line of defense as they attack the integrity of the First Lady. It's beneath the dignity of American citizens. We have that obligation. It's a moral obligation. It's a moral obligation. My brothers and my sisters, when the president stands for the end of assault weapons, raises minimum wage, earned income taxes, stand with the mourning congregations of burned churches, stands for affirmative action and voting rights and social justice and gender equality, he deserves 4 more years. I need my time. Well, what is the alternative? In the absence of our enthusiasm, there'll be Dole and Gingrich and Trent Lott and Clarence Thomas and Scalia. We deserve better than that. And so, we disagree on a critical issue like welfare. But then, if we elect him, there's another day and a better day. But don't stop there. We are mature enough to differ without splitting. That's what makes democracy real. We must protect one big tent. One big tent. Lastly, well, Jack said, where does your reasoning come from? It comes from this. In 1932, Roosevelt did not run on the New Deal platform. He was the best option. The workers at the plant gates, they were the answer. A combination of what? An enlightened president, an energized electorate, that's the coalition. In 1960, Dr. King chose Kennedy over Nixon. Neither ran on the public accommodations platform. That came from Birmingham. In 1964, neither Johnson nor Goldwater ran on a Voting Rights Act platform. That came from Selma. When we the people coalesce with an enlightening president, we can change America for the better, for the better, for the better. On this note, I leave you now. If we protect that big tent and leave here stronger, diverse, and better and more challenged, And we leave here with a plan to reclaim our children. Leave here with a plan to reinvest in America's infrastructure. Then we need to have the faith to hold on. Tonight, I stood in the background with a heart full of joy, and yet a tear swelled up in one eye and then the next as I watched Jesse Jr. come before you tonight, and I thought about his growing up. He was born March 11th, 1965. March 7th, 1965 was Bloody Sunday in Selma, Alabama. I heard of his birth while in Selma, Alabama, as we shed blood and lost the lives of Swerner and Goodman and Cheney and Medgar Evers and Valerie Luiso and babies who died that we might have the right to vote. In your cynicism, don't you walk away from this vote. If you don't vote, you are irrelevant to the process. If you do not have integrity, you are a coward. Only by engaging can you make things happen. Don't stop there. When I watched him stand there tonight, and I thought about the legacy of Ron Brown, and yes, that of my father. The first image I remember in life was waking up early one morning in Greenville, South Carolina, in my mother's bed. She was showing me a picture saying that this is Daddy, he is coming home on furlough. A few days after that, Dad came up the hill. First time I saw him, the duffel bag on his shoulder, giving me some candy and giving Mom a hug. Then he had to go back to get his honorable discharge. One day, as I began to work with Dad as he raked leaves and cut grass, a man came out of his back door and he talked different than other South Carolinians. I said, Dad, why is he talking funny? He said, well, he's German. When I was going away from home, we fought to help free that country, and now he can go downtown and work and can vote, and I can't. And he was crying. I didn't understand what those tears were about. He just said, you hold on for that Bible, that flag. I didn't give up, and don't you give up. It meant nothing to me. Then he told me later on about his war adventure. When I was but a baby, my mom was pregnant. He said to the man for whom he shined shoes, I'm going to get a job down the street at the hotel. The barber said, you can't leave my shoe shine business. He said, but I have a wife, a baby, and a pregnant wife. When Dad had left to take the job at the hotel, he went down to the office and sent my daddy to the army. He sent him away to die. He went to Europe, where a U.S. Senator from South Carolina spoke to the all-black troops that Mr. Dole talked about not far from him. And that the U.S. Senator said to them, you're here to fight a war, not to chase white girls. They faced humiliation, and then the war was over. He said they came back on the ship, coming to New York's Pearl Harbor. They saw the Statue of Liberty. They'd never seen it before, and they jumped for joy because they had won the war. They had really won the war. They won the war. And then when they passed the Statue of Liberty and got into the harbor, the black soldiers went down one set of stairs and the whites another. And yet they smiled above their tears because they were glad to be back home. And then they got on the train going south. When they got on that train in New York, they hugged their loved ones, their mothers, their daughters, their girlfriends, their wives, and on down to Philadelphia, and then to Delaware, and then to Baltimore, and then they got near Union Station. And I thought about it, and someone said, were you happy when Jesse was sworn in? No, it was more than happiness. It was a kind of joy. Because happiness may be smiles deep, but then there's a joy that comes deeper that's linked to a faith. And so when he said it got to Union Station, they threw up their Cokes, their beers, their sandwiches. They said, we won the war. The Germans said we were inferior, but we beat them. Our pilots from Tuskegee shot them down. We won the war. They had this joy that they had done something great. They won the war. They saw their own capital. They won the war. But then they had to get off the train because going south of Washington, they had to sit behind Nazi war criminals because they were white. And while he cried bitter tears, he said to me, hold that Bible in one hand and that flag in the other, and you hold on. And that day as Jesse was being sworn in by Newt Gingrich, when his hand went up heavenly, his hand touched the Bible. I had one eye on him and one eye on that station. About 3 blocks away from my father had to get off the train as a veteran and sit behind Nazi war criminals. My son has been sworn into the U.S. Congress. It's called faith is the substance of things hoped for and evidence of things unseen. We serve a mighty God. Keep that faith. Stand with the chicken workers. Keep that faith. Stand with the coal miners. Keep that faith. Stand with shipbuilders. Keep that faith. Stand with the poor. Keep that faith. Stand with the widows. Keep that faith. Stand tall. Never surrender your hopes and your joys. Keep that faith. We will win and deserve to win. Stand tall, Mr. Clinton. We will win and deserve to win. Keep hope alive. I love you.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome our former Senate Majority Leader and now Chairman of Peace Talks underway in Northern Ireland, Senator George Mitchell.